Morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our first day and first session of the Endeavor Bootcamp. And since we have Spanish speakers too, buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos a nuestro Bootcamp, el primer día, la primera sesión. Es un placer tenerlos acá con nosotros, a cada uno de ustedes. So I'm going to start introducing our first speaker. He's not only an excellent mentor from the Endeavor community, he's a close friend of the Endeavor community, and he is a master in branding, marketing, communication, storytelling. And I'm sure we're going to learn so much from him, even myself, that I've heard him talk a couple of times. So it's going to be so much fun. Be ready to jump into understanding what storytelling is, the importance of branding and positioning not only your company but yourself, right? And leveraging every tool that you have and that we're going to be giving you along every single day, every single session. So Ari, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling this morning?
Right.
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cool. All righty. So let me share my screen here. All right. Here we go. All right. So I guess we have an interesting audience, right? We have people from Latin America, some people from the US. I don't know if we have anybody else from other countries, but welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk a little bit about storytelling and brand identity, how we're going to align those two. To me, it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. I've been in marketing, sales, and technology for almost 3 decades. And if there's something I'm really passionate about is storytelling. And the reason why I think storytelling is the cornerstone of any business, any company, is because without a story, there's nothing to tell. And if there's nothing to tell, then there's nothing to buy. All right. So that's something that we got to remember, that at the end of the day, there's a million products that they sell the same thing, they service the same thing. But what makes us different at the end of the day is the story behind it. Okay. The reason why we buy a phone, a car, a computer, a pizza, whatever it is, clothing, it's the story behind it. It's how we feel connected to the brand, how it makes us feel, and how we feel that we are part of that story. Okay. It's when you feel those chills in your body when you enter a shop, or when you're online, browsing for a perfume or whatever it is, that emotion that feels that connection that takes you back to when you were a kid, those emotions that feel, those butterflies in your stomach, that is why you buy that brand. That's why you're loyal to that brand. Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay. We could spend hours, we could spend days. I've done some of these workshops in several days. We only have less than an hour, 45 minutes. So it's going to be packed with a lot of information. And we're going to leave some time, Gabby, right at the end for Q&As, which I think is the juicy part, to talk about the Q&As. And of course, I'm going to share at the end my contact information so you guys can reach out and, ask for more information and whatnot. Okay. So about myself really quick. Okay. I'm the founder and CEO of iSource Marketing. We are a integrated marketing agency. We work mainly with startups and tech companies, and we help businesses grow, scale, and position as brand leaders, obviously through interesting and amazing storytelling, okay, and brand experiences. This is just a quick bio about myself. I'm not going to talk about this, but I've been doing this for over 30 years. And I have worked with hundreds of companies. And there's a common denominator when working with so many companies. I've worked with small startups, high growth startups, failed startups, huge enterprises, global enterprises. And there is a common denominator in all of them. The ones that are the most successful are the ones that have aligned their why with their brand. Okay, it's how they're telling a story in a cohesive way, and that it translates always in the same way through the different mediums and channels they use for their audience. Okay. And to be honest, it's a very tricky game. It's not easy, especially as a founder when you're starting your business, to be able to pinpoint exactly what is your real story. Because not everyone, and I know I hear this all the time in events and conferences, just follow your passion and tell exactly how. And, you were in the middle of the desert and you were about to die. And you figure out, oh, I have to invent a straw so it can drink water from a pond that is infected with malaria. No, that's bullshit, guys. That's not usually how it happens, right? That's 99% of the people in this room most probably didn't happen that way. Okay. Most probably you were just scratching your head thinking, what can I come up with that is interesting? What problem, what opportunity in the market is there out there that I'm able to solve, and how I will be able, and why I am the one, okay, to solve that problem. And going back to my previous comment, that is the most important thing. You need to go really deep inside of you, and somehow, I like to make this analogy about having a therapy with a psychologist, right? It's like you need to be able to be 100% open and honest with yourself about why you started that company, and what is your real goal. What is your vision with your company? What are you trying to achieve? Because you can't say just fucking money, and pardon my French. You can't just say, I want to make a lot of money. That's not your goal. And if that's the case, you're going to fail. There needs to be something else. There needs to be an outcome that is going to be so impactful that the clients and your customers and your partners and your investors are going to fall in love with. Those are the brands, those are the Apples, the Ubers, the Airbnbs, the Rappies, the Nubanks, the Mercado Libres. Those are the guys that changed the world. But they didn't do it for money. They did it because they wanted to make a change in the way we live, the way we make things, that makes it easier for us to get a toothbrush in 6 hours in Amazon, or just, arrive in Bogota and in 20 minutes you have a bed and a room ready to sleep with Airbnb. Okay, that's how they changed the world. So I'm pretty sure that you guys are familiar with the pyramids of Egypt, right? And I want to start with a short story. I know I've seen a bunch of familiar faces here in the audience, and most of them, a lot of you know that I've been in Egypt about a week ago. And I want to tell a story because I think it's very important to understand the power of storytelling. And obviously, I've always been amazed by the pyramids since I was a kid, and I think everyone feels the same way, right? You were in school since maybe kindergarten, and we were being told stories about the pyramids and the Egyptians and the pharaohs, and they were built 5,000 years ago, and you know, but getting there, walking and touching the pyramids, and just it's impossible to explain what you feel, okay? And it's if you look at it from a logical perspective, it's just a bunch of rocks, okay? But it's the story behind the pyramids. It's the story about the pharaohs that built the pyramids about 5,000 years ago. It took 100,000 people. The pyramids of Giza, which are the three pyramids, the large pyramids that you're seeing here, it took 100,000 people, 30,000, okay, 30,000 miles. 30 years, they took the pyramids and the rocks for over 800 kilometers through the Nile River. Why is this so interesting? They get millions of tourists coming to Egypt every year. It's not about the pyramids. It's not about the shape or the size. It's about the story. It's the most relevant story ever told. 5,000 years in the making, and they're still standing up, and people still go. And it's not about, because Egypt is in the middle of nowhere, guys. Okay, it takes forever to get to Egypt, and still we go just for spend a couple of hours and touch it and feel and close your eyes and say, I'm part of this. And the same thing happens with a brand. Okay. All right. Now, this, I couldn't help but show this. The similarities are overwhelming with the Sphinx of Egypt myself. All right. So, the power of storytelling. Okay. Let me just, I gotta move this.
¿Qué pasa? Son mis zapatos.
I gotta move this somewhere else. Okay. The power of storytelling. Okay. As I was saying, you know, that power is the most power thing you have. And obviously, I'm not saying that product market fit is not important. Of course it is. We are assuming that you guys have a great product, a great service, and there is a real product market fit. Okay. A story is only going to take you so far. You need to deliver at the same time, right? So keeping that in mind, the story you're going to tell, okay, is the most important thing you're going to do. Now, storytelling is how we connect at a human level. Okay, it's forget about the product you're building or the service you're providing. Okay, the story is going to be able, it's going to make you connect at a human level. Okay, and every story starts with a why we care, why we build, why we lead, why we are doing what we're doing. Okay, and this is going back to my previous comment. It's very important to take the time that you need, okay, to be honest with yourself and understand and find that why. And, you know, I spend timeless hours and days and sessions with founders that I've helped with the agency and Endeavor, drilling down really deep on the why. And let me tell you, I can assure you that at least half of you are wrong in the why. You think you're doing things for one reason, but if you go really deep, those why in many cases are not the real why you think it is. So spend time with yourself, be honest, spend time with your team, with your co-founders, with your investors, trying to find exactly the why. And you need to find that why, because if you don't find the real why you're doing things, that's true. The story you're going to tell is not going to feel real. And if a story doesn't feel real, it's not going to connect, and the customers and your audience are not going to relate. They're not going to feel the emotion. Okay. So keep that in mind. Your brand is the character of your story. So you need to come up with a compelling story. This is like making a movie. Okay. How many of you, you know, obviously nowadays with Netflix and, you know, Prime Video and so on, it's so easy to just hop on from one movie to another, a TV show. Doesn't happen to you that you start watching a movie or a show and in the first 5 minutes, you don't feel engaged with the plot, with the story. And then you're just like, I'm not liking this. I'm going to watch something else. And that's the same story with your brand. You only have a few minutes, especially when you're in the top of a funnel. I'm going to switch for a few moments to marketing. If you're in the top of a funnel, okay, you only have a few minutes, even sometimes seconds, to tell that story, that elevator pitch, okay, that value proposition, that all needs to be aligned within the same story. If you don't do it the right way, and if you don't align it, then you're going to lose that potential prospect. And let me tell you, you never know who you're talking to. It could be a potential client. It could be a potential investor. It could be a potential partner. It could be a journalist. You never know. I've met people in the most awkward and random situations. So you always need to be ready to pitch. You always need to be ready to tell your story because you never know who you're talking to. Okay. I remember many years ago when I first started my career in marketing, um, my dad used to buy pizza from this pizza place in Argentina, Buenos Aires. I was born in California, but I grew up in Argentina. And everyone loved this pizza place, right? And one day I go to the cashier to pay, and I asked the guy, "Hey, how did you start your pizza shop?" He said, "Well, it's a long story. How much time do you have?" You see, and that's to me was like an aha moment. Like when he asked me, "How much time do I have?" And that is something that you founders, CEOs, need to understand that particular concept of how much time do you have. Because the same thing happens when you're communicating with your audience. One thing is when you're talking to your audience in your website. Another thing is you're talking to your potential investors in your investors deck, in your pitch. Another thing is if you're in social media, in LinkedIn or in X or in Instagram, okay, you need to know how much time your audience usually has at that specific channel. You can't pretend to tell the whole story in 30 minutes. If I'm on average, I'm going to be in X 1 or 2 minutes. So going back to the pizza story, the guy tells me, well, the short story is that my father uh, was living in Italy, and during the Second World War, we had nothing to do or to eat, but he was a great pizza maestro. Okay, and he started baking pizzas. And then we migrated to Argentina, and that's how he started his pizza shop. Fast forward 10 or 15 years, that became one of the most popular pizza chains in the country. And that's the power of storytelling. And you could see in everything how they translated that story of migrating from Italy and having to make pizza out of need, not out of passion. It was out of need because they didn't have anything else to eat. And how that became their staple brand and their storytelling throughout the brand. Okay. Your story is your superpower. So as I was saying before, authenticity builds trust. So you need to be authentic. You can't pretend to be a brand that you're not. You can't pretend to be something or solving a problem that you're not really solving. It falls through the cracks. Okay, you need to be honest and true to yourself. Now, let me tell you one thing. Storytelling and the story you're going to tell is a moving train. Okay, it's a story that is going to evolve over time. You're not going to, the story, it's like a never ending sequel, if you may, right? You're going to start one way and you keep on telling the story, and you're going to make little tweaks to that story. But as your company evolves, as your market evolves, that story is also going to evolve. Okay, and it's fine. That's the way it's supposed to be. The way Nike, when they started with the Nike shoes, told their story is not exactly the way Nike is telling their story right now. But the foundation of the story is still the same. So you need to keep that authenticity, okay, to keep building trust and to remind people that you're still the same company, you're still the same brand, you're still the same, solving the same problems, and that you still have the same vision. And that vision can change a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's still the same. So keep it real. Real stories will resonate deeply. Communicate your why. Don't be afraid to communicate your why. And if you're not sure exactly about your why, then try some. If you're, am I doing this for this reason? Am I solving this problem or other? Give it a try. Give it a try and get feedback from the market. And then passion attracts believers. Don't feel afraid to share your passion. not only with your employees, with your co-founder, okay, with your investors. Share your passion with your clients, with your prospects, with your investors, okay? Um, there's nothing to me, there's nothing more energetic and empowering than sitting down with an entrepreneur and feeling that passion, feeling that fire inside of them, trying to change the world, you know. At the end of the day, and many of you in this session are, entrepreneurs, and some are investors. Me, myself, I'm all of the above. Um, at the end of the day, we invest in the founders. The first thing we do is believe in the founders. The product could change, they might have to pivot, they might have to change the marketing and address, the product market fit might have to change a little bit, but we are investing in the founders. And the number one thing you got to do is communicate that passion. And the way you communicate that passion is through the correct storytelling. So, going to practical things now. What are the elements of a powerful narrative? Okay. So, this is pretty straightforward. There's always a problem. So, it's clearly defined, that will define the issue. There's the vision, which is or illustrates your ideal future. What is your ideal outcome? What is that ideal future or life or market that we see ahead of time? And there's the why you highlight your unique strength. Okay. The problem is your hook. The vision is your invitation. The why is your proof. Why you are the best person, the best brand, the best company to solve that problem. Okay. Your story becomes powerful when the pieces make sense together. They need to make sense. I see this all the time where companies, I go to their website and they say, okay, well, this is the problem, meaning, I don't know, universal insurance access. Okay, that's something that is very popular these days, right? So you pretty much you can buy insurance for anything you can imagine, right? And right from an app. And I love that concept. I think there's a huge market for it. That's the problem you're solving. Then you have the vision, right? Is I believe that for every asset that we own in the future, we will have some kind of insurance. Okay. New, used, certified, not certified. Eventually, I believe in that. I believe that for every asset we own, we will have an insurance. Now, the why you is a big problem. Why are you uniquely qualified to solve that problem? And not only that's a challenge, it's how we communicate that. Because you can't just say, "Oh, we have $100 gazillion in the bank, in the banks of Lloyd's in London, so we're never going to go bankrupt, and we're going to honor every claim that we make or the clients make." Is how you tell the story. Why is your company? Why did it start it? And why customers and prospects will believe that you are the best bet. That's the challenge. Okay. Now, crafting your narrative, the framework, this is very easy. Again, this workshop, usually you can do it in a few days, and there's a lot of processes and framework that we go through, right? But just to give you an idea, this is very straightforward, and I'm sure that you're going to remember when you were in elementary school and you started doing your initial essays, right? There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's the end, right? And in the beginning, we identify the challenge. Okay, what is the challenge? What problem are we solving? What market need we have identified that we're trying to resolve, and that we see that there is an opportunity. Then there's the middle, or the development, which is describe your journey and the solution. And this part, my friends, is where most companies fail, because they focus on the how they resolve the problem, but they forget about all the problems and all the challenges and all the failures they face before they achieve success. And that's where you're losing a huge opportunity. Your clients, your investors, okay, they want to know, they want to see the nitty gritty, they want to see your failures, they want to see that we spent 5 years making this product awesome. We failed 20 times. We had to pivot 25 different ways, and we finally got it. You need to tell that part of the story. Don't leave your failures outside. Show them, be vulnerable. The more people see that it was a huge struggle for you and that it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of people to get where you are now, the more you're going to connect with your audience. And trust me, I know that it takes a leap of faith to communicate in your messaging, in your website, in social media, all the failures you went through, all the time. Look, do you remember Tesla, right? I was an early adopter for Tesla for maybe about almost 10 years now. And do you remember Elon Musk, traditionally? It's like, oh, we're going to launch this car in September 2026. And then he launches 2 years later. Still, people wait for him. Why? Because he's telling the story. And he's telling, we're having issues with this, the production line is not ready, this and that, but we're working on it. Be honest with your customers, be honest with your audience, with your investors. When things are not going the right way, tell it. And people will continue to trust you. Don't be afraid of that, okay? And that's what it says. Don't show them just the results, share the mess. Stories are remembered by the journey they are in. And at the end, demonstrate impact. Obviously, is very important. Now, keep something in mind. Some of you might be in a different phase in your startup or your company. Some of you might be starting the business. Some of you might be a few years in. Some of you might have a more mature company that is more plateau, right? And obviously, the storytelling, the concept is still the same, but where you are able to tell is going to vary. When you're starting, there's only so much that you can tell in terms of demonstrating impact and your results. As you progress in the life of your company, you're going to have more things to tell, more impact to show, and it's fine. That's where vision comes in, right? As long as you have a clear vision and you align the why with your vision and your brand, people are going to believe in you. Okay, so don't feel afraid, don't be scared, to have that clear vision, but at the same time, don't overshoot. Okay, I also see that a lot of times that founders and brands, they overshoot in terms of overpromising. And there's nothing more dangerous than overpromising in your story. Because at the end of the day, okay, if you overpromise in your story and then you don't follow through, you're doomed. Okay, that's where social media is going to kill you, is going to come back to haunt you. Okay, that's where Reddit is going to kill you. Okay, don't promise things that you will not be able to achieve. And I'm not saying that be ultra conservative. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But, you need to be somewhere within the realm of doable and achievable things. Okay. Making your brand memorable. So again, root your brand in authenticity. Okay. Again, don't pretend to be somebody that you're not. be honest, be authentic, okay? And that is going to pay out, okay? Your brand should feel familiar, okay? That means staying true to who you are, okay? People don't connect with perfection. They connect with purpose and consistency, okay? That's the most important thing I can tell you right now. A memorable brand is a consistent brand, meaning we're consistent in the way we communicate our message in our website, in our brochures, in our mobile app, in our social media, in our investors report. We need to be consistent. If we are consistent, we're going to be memorable. The biggest brands in the world, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Apple, Uber, Airbnb, anywhere you look, they're consistent. So you need to be consistent as well. Align personal and company values. This is a tricky one again, okay? How many of you have struggled with this? Saying, well, my values, my personal values, aside from the traditional ones, integrity, hard work, financial freedom, okay, code of ethics, non-discrimination. Those are my personal values, to just name a few. But then when you go to the company, sometimes they're not the same. But that's a problem. I personally believe that a really successful brand, the founders should have the same values as the company. Because at the end of the day, that will transpire to your team, your investors, and the clients will see that. And they will feel it. And how they will see it and how they will feel it in everything you make as a company, in the way you sell your products, in the way you communicate your products, in the way you do customer service. When you have a problem with the warranty of a product, when you're calling about more information and you need somebody to help you decide, is this the right product for me or not? All of that in your new hires, all of that relates to aligning your personal and company values. And trust me, you need to spend time on that and get real with it. Okay. Emotional connections matter. Again, I know that most of you are obsessed with getting the product to be perfect. Okay. I'm working on this app. It's going to change the world. I'm doing real estate. It's going to enable people to, find houses much faster without a 6% commission to realtors, whatever. Love that. Okay. But don't forget that you need to find and create an emotional connection with your customers, with your prospects. And the way you're going to create that emotional connection is not through the perfect app. No, you're wrong. It's going to be through storytelling. How you're going to tell the story, why you came up with that amazing real estate app, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, how difficult it's been to do it, how countless nights and weekends and years of sweat and non-vacations, okay, you had to put into it to take it to where it is right now. That's what creates emotional connection with your customers. So don't be afraid to tell it, okay? The Nike, just do it, a power of the athlete storytelling. Rappi, brand voice focus on convenience, hassle, and local pride. Netflix, build loyalty through local hyper content and user first experience. Tell the story, create that emotional connection, okay? It's like Apple, if you compare features, specs from an Apple phone to an Android phone, okay? Honestly, if you look at the specs, for the most part, Android phones are more powerful than Apple phones. For the most part. Still, we still buy Apple. Why? Why are we paying 20, 30, 40% premium over Apple instead of buying an Android phone that is more powerful, faster, with a better camera. We're buying the story. We're buying the Steve Jobs story. We're buying the protecting privacy story. We're buying the being independent company story. We're buying the curated content story. That's why we love Apple so much, because we trust in Apple. Ask any user in the world, okay, who they think is one of the companies they can trust the most. And they're gonna say Apple, Uber, Airbnb. Simple as that. You need to build trust, and you build trust through storytelling and delivering product. Again, I'm not saying you need to forget about delivering product, but I'm saying you need to tell the story. So, translating your story across channels. And I've been talking about this already a little bit, okay? But I think here is also a place where a lot of founders make mistakes. As I was saying, consistency is key. You need to be consistent in the way you tell your story. You can't just, be in your website and tell your story one way, and then you go to social media and then your story seems to be something else, or you're telling a different way that doesn't really make sense, and it feels like it's a different movie, okay? So you need to be really consistent in the way you tell your story, okay? And again, I'm not saying you don't need to evolve the message. The story can evolve, and it will evolve as any brand and as any market, okay? But you need to be consistent, okay? Keep your core story the same, adapt your expression. Now, integrate your narrative across platforms, and this is where it gets tricky. Again, pitch decks, websites, social media. Remember when I told the story about the pizza guy that asked me, how much time do you have? Think the same way, okay? Whomever is visiting your website has so much time and has a specific profile of that buyer persona, okay? Whomever goes to your website or to your social media, one thing is LinkedIn, another thing is X, another thing is Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, okay? You need to adapt the message, the story, but the story is the same. It's just snippets of the story that you need to tell, okay? It's like a trailer of a story. Or think of it as a TV show in Netflix that is not going to fit in an hour and a half to make it a movie. So we're going to make it a TV show with 8 episodes. And it's fine. And it's amazing. If you have 8 episodes, it means it's a lot to tell. And that's going to give you a lot of meat, okay, to work with. All right. And then the essential elements on an effective elevator pitch. Okay, that's critical. Okay. You need to have that elevator pitch really fine-tuned. And the elevator pitch needs to be aligned with your story. Why you're doing it. What problem are you solving? Why you're doing it. Okay. And what is the impact? How are you going to make people's lives better, easier? So, key takeaways. Leverage your story for differentiation. Again, in whatever industry you might be, okay, I'm sure there's a lot of companies that are doing the same thing that you are doing. There's a lot of companies that are solving it maybe the same way. Now, the way you tell your story is going to make you different. That's going to be your key difference. The way you tell your story is going to make you different and will set you apart from your competition. And that's what people are going to relate with, your story. If there's same products, I'm going to buy the product that I relate the most with. And that's the storytelling part. Okay. Consistency enhances memorability. What we're talking about before. Okay. Be consistent with your message. Okay. Don't go changing your message and your story every other day. You need to be consistent over time, and you need to be consistent across the different channels. Okay. And again, I haven't mentioned AI on purpose in this presentation. because I'm already bored with so much AI, and I am a heavy AI user. I consider myself to be an AI expert, okay, in marketing. Leverage AI to help you tailor that story and create those different messages for the different channels. AI, ChatGPT is so powerful. If you train the models the right way, they're going to be your best friend in telling that story, how you can create that message and tell the story in the different mediums. Okay. So leverage AI for that. Authenticity fosters trust. As we spoke before, be authentic. Okay. Cut the bullshit and be honest. Okay. And then keep refining and sharing your narrative. Again, it's going to be a never ending story. So you're going to refine and improve your story, the way you tell your story, and think of it as a big movie. And within that big movie, within that big story, there are little stories that are happening. You know, when you're watching a movie and there is 3 or 4 different stories happening, and you start watching the movie, and what does this have to do with the other part of the story? There's a couple in Europe getting married, and then there's a kid in New York riding a bicycle, and there seems to be like 2, 3, 4, 5 stories happening at the same time, but they're not related. But at the end, there's that aha moment that they were all related. The same thing can happen to your brand. Okay. You're going to have a big story, but within that big story, there's going to be little stories. And those little stories that are all, at the end, they're all connected. They could be different aspects of your company and your business. The way you created different products, the way now you're addressing different markets. Those could be different stories that you're also going to have to tell. So most probably some of you are thinking right now, okay, Ari, but like I have so many things going on, I can't fit them all in one story. Yes, you can. Think of it as a big movie, okay, like an umbrella. And then underneath, there's all these other stories happening, but they're all connected. They're all part of the same movie. It's just that you need to be sure that when you tell those little stories, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And that end leads to the bigger story. That's how you're changing the world. That big problem, that big impact that we were talking about. Okay. I hope I made this analogy helpful. So to close, I'm going to share here some examples of brands that obviously everyone knows. Okay. So Coca-Cola, the problem, people want joy in a daily life. I mean, to me, Coca-Cola is just overwhelming. I mean, thinking that a company that is over 100 years old still selling the same product, using the same story, joy. That's all they sell. Their story is joy. Find joy in the simple things in life. Coffee break, stressful day, meeting with friends, open a Coke, have 5 minutes of joy. Okay. Share happiness, consistent emotional storytelling for over 100 years. Amazon, the problem, limited retail access and slow delivery. The vision, okay, making buying anything fast and easy, even though they started with books initially, and then they, obviously they spread to other industries, okay, but why them? Relentless customer focus and logistical innovation. Okay. Tesla, the world was dependent on fossil fuels. Again, I don't know if, and again, I'm not trying to advocate towards or against the founders or Elon Musk or whomever, but if you read the book about Elon Musk and how they started Tesla, and then you read the case study of Tesla that they teach in colleges, you will learn so much. I advise that if you haven't read the book from Elon Musk, the biography, how he started his original companies and where he's at right now, it's a masterclass in storytelling. Uber, again, getting taxis was unreliable, vision, tap a button and get a ride, and then frustration turned into a platform that redefined urban mobility. Again, I don't believe, to me, Uber, as Apple and Tesla and Airbnb, they just changed the way we live forever. And for that, I think there are master classes in storytelling. Apple, again, a company that went broke almost several times, a huge comeback with Steve Jobs, and then the way he changed a product launch. Again, if any of you is looking for tips or advice on how to make presentations, how to launch products, go online on YouTube and watch 100 videos of Steve Jobs making their famous Apple days and launching product. It's a master class of storytelling. So every great brand was once a story waiting to be told. Your authentic narrative has the power not to only build your company, but inspire the world around you. Embrace that power, okay? A story, and this is something that I want to close with. A story about your brand is already being told if you're not telling it. Now, it's up to you to control that narrative. Because if you don't, somebody else will. Thank you, everyone, and I hope this was useful. This is my contact info.
Thank you,
very much.
Adi. So everyone, right now we're going to start the Q&A with Adi. This was great. And just to a couple of reminders of what Adi said that I think we should always keep in mind is consistency is key with your brand and with your storytelling. Use the tools that we have access to, AI, in the right way. And my favorite one is authenticity fosters trust, right? Because that's the connection that we have between human beings. And that's our power, right? We are own ourselves as human beings. We are the most powerful thing in the world. So how we tell our story, how do we connect with other human beings? That's the most important thing of it all, because that's where you create trust. Remember, when you meet someone, every single relationship that we have, you start with a zero in trust, right? Because you're starting to get to know each other. So you have to build that trust. And if you're authentic, if you're original, if you're consistent with your messaging, with the way that you're telling your story, with the way that you connect with people, that builds the trust, right? And you build the trust for your investors, for your clients, for potential partners, with your different audience, right? And the different platforms that we have. So again, key points here: consistency, using the tools the right way, and authenticity fosters trust. So we're opening right now for Q&A. So are you ready? Because I guess a couple of people are going to have some tough questions for you.
Sure.
Anyone who wants to has a question, please raise your hand. There we go. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Leslie.
Thank you so much. It was such a powerful and inspiring presentation. I have a very straightforward question. This has to do with me as a person, as owner. I have two lines of business. I am a photographer myself, and I am the founder of a large format printing company, which is a photo lab. So both things are related, and I have a cool, varied story to tell for each one of them. But sometimes I am afraid that I might confuse people in terms of brands. So should I present myself as the founder owner of Winwood Editions, which is the name of my large format printing company? Because actually I started this company myself out of my own needs as an artist.
Yeah.
And then the photography business, I'm the photographer, I'm the author. But I struggle with that. Am I confusing people if I am presenting my face, my personal brand, to say it in some way, as the face of the two companies? Or should I disappear from Winwood Editions and develop that brand without my face, and then continue developing my business as a photographer with me?
Right. That's a great question. And it's a question that a lot of founders have when they own multiple lines of business, right? Even myself, I have this agency, but I have other businesses as well. And it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. think of it as how your friends know you, okay, or your family. Your family or your friends know you as Leslie, a woman, hardworking, successful, that has a personal brand, okay, and that personal brand is the result or the composition of everything else, meaning your photography career, your printing studio, your personal life, okay, and everything else. So, and you need to keep it that way. When you are talking to somebody, you should talk about yourself first. Your personal brand is above everything else. Then you can talk about your business brands. But the first thing you have to talk about is your personal brand. Clients, Leslie, will come to you because of you, not because of your printing studio or your photography. They're going to connect with you. And I think that the fact that you are a photographer and you are also a printing studio, for somebody like me, which is a marketing agency owner, I think it's marvelous. I mean, you get the both sides of the street, you know. You have the production, but you also have the skills and the creativity and the vision of a photographer. So start with your personal brand, and then as the conversation progresses or your messaging, then you can drill down into your individual brands and your individual stories. But at the end of the day, your big story is Leslie.
Okay.
That's why you're successful, because you are a photographer. You studied most probably photography. You've been doing photography for ages. And that expertise, that wisdom, okay, translates into the printing studio.
Okay. Thank you, Ari.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
100%. Just have your permission rate. We total are one.
Gabby, you're in mute, I think.
Oh, so sorry. We have a couple of questions on the chat that we're going to read.
Okay.
Anna, can you help me out with this, please?
Where do we start? How do you man? I'm Jose Hernandez. I'm going from the bottom. Okay. Thank you, Ari. How do you manage or separate the founder's character or immoral behavior with their brand? IKEA's founder, affiliation with pro-Nazi groups. Oof, that's a tough one. Well, I myself, I'm Jewish, so that's even more difficult for me to respond. And I think Gabi might be better to respond this question in terms of messaging and PR. But listen, when it comes to this kind of immoral, non-ethical genocide things, even if you don't take it that far, right? Even if we don't go as somebody pro-Nazi, I mean, we see it all the times, CEOs and founders doing crazy stuff out of the office with their personal lives. And even without going that far, if we take it to other, you know, in sports, again, at the end of the day, everyone has a personal brand. I think this is a good point, going back to Leslie's question, right? Everyone, even if you want it or not, we all have a personal brand. Okay, so it's up to you to control that personal brand, because if you don't, others will control it and then you're doomed. Okay, so it's better that you control your personal brand. Now, at the same time, it's inevitable that the personal brand is going to affect your company brand. There's been a bunch of companies that went bankrupt because the CEO or the founder was doing crazy stuff, okay? And the company went broke because people lost trust in the company. They lost trust in the brand. They lost trust in the story. And all those stories that you told us, they're all fake. And when you lose trust, you lose clients, okay? I don't know, I hope that helps.
And to help Adi on this, yes, it's also a PR matter, right? So it's very important to understand that whenever you're building your personal brand, you are also tapping into, okay, what are these things that can come up and be public that might affect my company or my personal brand? And you have to have ready all those answers, right? So for example, right now, if there's a founder that's going to affect a company, usually what the company or the team does is, okay, you're going to step aside of it. And then you have to manage through a crisis management and PR efforts, the situation. And it's what Ari is saying, right? We have to be ready because the world changes. And again, we're human beings, right? And there's so many things that can come up from when we were younger, other like family members, our surroundings and everything. But it takes us back to what Ari mentioned, consistency, authenticity, being truth to yourself. And if you have that connection to people already, then it's easier to manage a crisis like this when they become like a brand issue. I can give you many examples. Like, for example, right now, Elon Musk. Now that everyone's talking about Elon Musk and that he's saying it's a great case study. So how are his personal actions affecting the company? And you can see it, right? So what is he being asked to do? Okay, step aside from the company. So those are the decisions that you do when it comes to personal branding, and how your personal, and then you can see how your personal brand is so related to your company because you are the one that told the story. And as Ari was telling Leslie, you are your company, right? So whatever you do affects the company, affects your employees, affects the people that surround you, and affect the reputation of your company and the brand of your company. So again, that's a perfect example as well. So how do we manage? Remember that PR is communications. It's the public relations. Is that connection between people and people, right? One person with the other. How do we tell the story? So back to the takeaways: authenticity, consistency, using the tools the right way. And by tools, we have AI, we have the media outlets, we have social media, and so many other tools that at the end are the ones that connect you and are the channels that connect you with the rest of the world and with your audience. And we're going to be actually, our next session is going to be on PR, crisis management. So this question is perfect, right?
Yeah.
For the rest of the session that we're having today.
Yeah. Gabby, I wanted to share also with the team. I don't know if you're familiar with Donald Miller, but Donald Miller is considered one of the godfathers of brand storytelling. He wrote a book, and he also developed a framework called the Story Brand Framework. If you Google it, the Story Brand Framework, I'm gonna write it here in the Donald Miller, the Story Brand framework. Sorry, type framework. Even if you go on ChatGPT and you ask about the framework, it's going to help you. This is a very simple, easy process with a framework to help you build a story. I suggest that you check it out. If you're struggling with putting together a narrative and a story for your business, this is going to help you break into 7 easy steps how to build your story. When you see this, you're gonna say, oh yes, of course, it makes sense. I mean, you've seen it. This framework has been used for several years now, and most of the companies are using it right now, because it's 7 steps, and it pretty much what happens is it's the same thing we talked about in terms of identifying the problem, the middle where you how you're going to resolve and solve that problem, and then the outcome and why you. This framework is pretty much the same, but it adds an additional sets of layers where the customer becomes the hero instead of the brand. And that is something you have to be very careful. Okay. As a brand, you don't want to be the hero. You want the customer to be the hero. The brand, your business, is the vehicle, the roadmap, the machine, the ammunition, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the tools, the toolbox. That's your brand. But we want to remember when you're designing or building a website, everyone talks about the hero banner, which is the main banner, and there's usually your customer or your ICP, your ideal client persona, which is usually a person, right? A woman or a man or a kid, whatever, doing something, resolving a problem, being successful. That's the hero. That's where the hero expression comes from. Okay. This framework will, in 7 easy steps, is going to help you create that story, making your customer the hero and your business or your brand that toolbox or that roadmap to become a hero. It's very easy to do, very easy to work with. And if you put it on ChatGPT and you prompt it the right way, ChatGPT will help you build it. It's okay. So I think this is going to be useful for you guys.
Okay, we have okay, Justin, go for it. And then we have 2 more questions in the chat.
Thank you, Gabby. Morning, Ari.
Hey, Justin.
How's it going?
Good.
So going back towards personal brand, I know you and Gabby both spoke on it briefly, but as someone who wants to begin building their own personal brand, what are some steps to begin, and how can I find my core? I think that Donald Miller, I'm going to pick up that book, but any other tips?
Well, I can start with that, and then Gabby, you can also chip in. But at the end of the day, it's all about your passion, to be honest. I mean, and as I'm saying this, I have mixed emotions about my comment, right? There's an author that I like, author and professor that is, his name is Scott Galloway. And I suggest he's wrote a few books, and to me, he's one of the most influential business entrepreneur founders of this time, Scott Galloway. And he, according to him, he says, listen, if a kid in his late teens or early 20s ask you, hey, dad or friend or boss, like, I don't know what to do with my life, and again, like, I want to build my personal brand, because your personal brand affects 100% of everyone that gravitates around you. It's not only your boss, your employees, your company, it's everyone. It's your mom, your dad, your kids, your wife, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your clients, your suppliers, your investors, everyone. Okay, so the most important and valuable thing you can do is build your personal brand. You can have the best idea on the planet, you can have the best business plan in the planet, but if your personal brand is not strong enough, people are not going to believe in you. People are not going to trust you. And if there's no belief, there's no trust, there's going to be very hard for you to be successful. Now, Scott Galloway says, listen, traditionally, we've been told as a society that we need to follow our passions. So follow your passion. Well, according to Professor Galloway, that's bullshit. He says, listen, passions is second. First, you need to find what you're really good at. So if you're really good at communicating, if you're really good at math, if you're really good at creating or inventing things, if you're really good at envisioning things, follow that thing that you're really good at and become a master at it. Go for the 10,000 hours expertise, become the best at it, be hyper-focused, and then you're going to be very successful. Build your persona brand around that skill set that you have. You're the best at this. You're the best at photography, you're the best at coding, you're the best at customer service, at tourism, at real estate, whatever, you're the best at it. Once you're successful and you've built that personal brand, then you can lean back a little bit and follow your passion.
And maybe sometimes, not every time, your passion is what
Yes.
you're really good at.
Aligns.
right?
Aligns. That's
For
that's
sure.
a double whammy. That's a double whammy, right? When you can align what you're good at with your passion, you know, that's magic, right? But it's very
Magic.
hard. It's not easy to find that combination.
Correct. And this is going to sound so cliche, but where do you start? You start with your why. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to reinvent yourself? Like, and that's the important, like, what is your purpose? What are you good at? What's the impact that you want to make, not only in the world, around you, with you, because that's where you start with you, right? As Ari was mentioning, and be the best at it. And the other thing is, and I'm going back to Ari's takeaways, because I think it's very important. Be consistent in your why and your purpose. That doesn't mean that you can't reinvent yourself. Like, you can reinvent yourself in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, you know, because at the end of the day, the world is changing and we are, as human beings, are changing. So we need to be agile on that as well. And our brand needs to be agile as well on that and be ready for the change that needs to happen. And something that we've been mentioning, and we've had this conversation with Ari and with many people, your brand is so important. And sometimes marketing communications and brand identity is the last in the priorities of a company, right? But at the end of the day, it's what you sells your company, sells your products, connects you with clients, because you are the company, you are the product, you are your project. So it's so important to understand your why, your purpose, and start doing it. And this is another great question, because we will send you a case study to everyone that's in the session. We will send you a case study. And what we want to do is, how do we, we're going to create a personal brand makeover for each one of you. So we're going to send you a case study with some questions and with instructions. You send it back, and the idea is, how do we keep engaging, and how are we able to build upon this first session, right? And create that brand identity that's going to help you also have a roadmap as to where to go with your marketing communications brand identity and PR initiatives or channels that you're going to use. So thank you, Ari, for that. And Justin, we have a couple of questions here in the chat. So we have Victoria. What if you've pivoted your career a lot and have many passions? How do you connect it all together to form your personal brand, Ari?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, and I get that question a lot. I think that's a big strength, to be honest. And a lot of people think that, well, I started early on in my career. I wanted to be a lawyer, a doctor, a developer, whatever. And I've been doing the same thing for 30 years. So that's why I'm really good at, because I've been doing the same thing over 30 years. Yeah, that works for some people, but for others, it doesn't. And what really matters is that you tell the story. Remember when in my presentation, I was saying that it's okay to show that it was messy to get where you are right now, that it was complicated, that you had to overcome a lot of obstacles. That made you stronger. And those pivots, those changes that you've made in terms of profession, in terms of the jobs you had, the places you worked, the countries you lived, all that were stepping stones to take you and to mold you to where you are right now. Don't be afraid to tell that. You know, I've encountered a huge number of founders that they are in the medical industry and they are lawyers, engineers, accountants, nothing to do. There's a guy that I met a couple of months ago. He's a plastics. Listen to this. This guy in Tampa, he's a plastic surgeon. He's running an SEO company now for marketing. Tell me, how in the universe will a plastic surgeon be running an SEO company? Makes no sense. But the guy was fed up with being a surgeon. He was fed up with spending countless hours in an OR room. And he had a knack for coding and, organic search and writing and this and that. And now he runs a very successful company doing SEO. And when you, in his podcast and in his bio, he tells the whole story. And I liked it. I find it interesting and I can relate. And I trust the guy because he's not bullshitting me. He's not telling me that he went to Harvard studying, coding. If he switched from that to SEO and he's successful now, he must be really good.
We have another question from Salvador. How do you integrate a story-for-profit sports tech startup that also has in their mission integrate a pro bono program for the underserved?
Can you repeat the question, please, Gabby?
How do you integrate a story for a profit sports tech startup that also has as part of their mission to integrate a pro bono program for the underserved?
Okay.
Underserved, underrepresented, yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I guess just to make an analogy, this could be something like Tom's, the shoe company, right? 1 for 1. Are you familiar with Tom's 1 for 1? So that's a very successful shoe company that every time you buy a shoe, they give a shoe to somebody in need, right? It's a beautiful concept. That's why it became so popular. I think it's super easy to integrate, but you have to be very careful not to overuse it, because then it's going to fall through the cracks. You're still a pro for-profit company, right? So it's a tech sports for-profit, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
you have a component of giving back to the community somehow. I don't know if it's a profit sharing or a contribution or somehow. So that needs to be, I think that the important thing here is more than what you do, which is giving back, is why you're giving back. That's your story. Because saying you're giving back is the easy part. And a lot of companies give back. It's why you're giving back and how you're giving back. And that giving back, what impact is having in the community. Okay, that's your story.
And one of the things that it's very important for us as Endeavor and as part of the America's Partnership Investor Network is how do we become multipliers in our mission and everything that we do, right? How do we impact the community? How do we pay it forward, as Adi is saying? And right now, whenever you want to integrate something into your companies that has to do with underserved or underrepresented communities, right? It's important to really pay attention to the language that you're using. Because as we know, we need to understand also where the world stands with this language right now, where in this case, the United States stands with that language, and for it also not to become an obstacle with your company. Language and narrative and how you tell the story is key, because that's going to also help you, get the messaging through, get the audience through, and get the impact where it has to go. So you can be a sports company, you can be a restaurant, you can do anything, but still, yes, what we want to do is what's the purpose? How do we impact the community? So again, the language, what do we really want this impact to be? Do we want to do it like Tom's that Adi mentioned, right? A one-on-one. Do we want to do it our sports company is going to have in the community center trainings for the young leaders, right, in the community. Like, how are we going to move forward upon it? And how do we make sure that it's aligned with our mission and it's aligned with the brand identity of the company, of the product, and of the founders? Because again, if you're a founder that doesn't really believe in the mission, it doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to translate. So as Ari was saying, and back to, and I'm so sorry that I'm repeating this, but it's consistency, authenticity, making sure that your audience, your clients trust you, right? And using the tools the right way, getting your message through the right way with the right platforms and with the right messaging. I don't know if we have any more questions.
Thank you.
Of course.
Have Eladio, who is a little bit more background of his storytelling and the pitch that he does in 30 seconds. So Ari, I want for you to take a look at it. He
I
says
get
that
your audio is kind of weird.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Awesome. So Eladio is sharing the storytelling that he's been giving for over 20 years. He wants for you to take a look at it to review if it's okay or if you have some feedback. So he says, my storytelling in 30 seconds intro for 20 years. I helped entrepreneurs launch, grow, and rebuild. I discovered real success start within growth from the inside out. Then life tested me. I was diagnosed with cancer. During chemo, I was hit by a car while biking. Hours later, another cyclist was hit in the same spot, but he didn't survive. That moment changed me. I knew I had to embody what I'd always thought and scale it. So I created Co-Creator AI, an emotionally aware mentor that helps entrepreneurs grow not just their business, but themselves from 1 to 1 to 1 to millions. So he's asking if that story is okay. I don't know if Eladio is still here, if he wants to give a little bit more of context.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Wow, interesting story. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to do with that story, the personal story, right? I have a friend that lives in San Francisco and he's working in a similar concept. But it's not for entrepreneurs, it's an AI companion for the veterans, okay, that went to war and they're suffering from physical injury or PTSD and so on. I think it's a huge market for it. And I think that your personal experience and your personal injury and medical journey and recovery is very powerful. And I think it should totally be part of the cornerstone of your story. But again, it's as I mentioned before, there's a tricky balance, right, between using your personal story and not abusing it. Okay, we want our clients and our audience to relate with us, to have empathy with us, but not to have pity. Okay, so you have to be careful. It's a delicate balance. Okay, so don't overuse it. It's you have to be subtle in a way that, wow, this was the breaking point where he was able to come up with this idea in a very unique circumstance. And so that is I'm gonna relate to you. I'm gonna connect with you, but I don't want to feel sorry about you. I want to feel inspired about you.
Yeah.
You understand the difference?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to be inspired by you. Okay. I don't want to feel sorry about you. And with any personal difficult history, that's it. This is a message for everyone. Okay. When we have loss in our lives, we went through different difficult moments. We need to use that for inspiration, okay, and not for making our clients or our audience feel sorry about us. People will not buy your company or your product because they feel sorry about you. They will buy because they feel inspired by you.
Okay. So do you think my story inspired? Or
I think it is. I mean, we would have to review it more in detail, the way it's
okay.
written, and again, and how you're using it in your website and social media and so on, right?
That's just the orange of the company. That's it.
Yeah,
Just for
yeah.
how
But I think there's a lot to work with. Yeah,
it was the beginning of the company. Okay.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I think that also the case study that we're going to send you is going to help you understand how to frame the story as well, right? Because as Ari said, there's so much content in your story and so many ways to draft it in a way that you're inspiring people to connect with you, that this is going to help you understand how, right? Because it's organizing your story. It's understanding, okay, in what way do I really want to inspire and connect with them? So that's going to be very helpful. And of course, again, as Adi and I mentioned, we are here to keep engaging with each one of you, and keep helping as we can. Any other questions?
Thank you, Gabriela.
Okay, and everyone has been asking, yes, the recording will be available for everyone. We will be uploading to our YouTube channel tomorrow, today's session, and we're going to do that with every single session, right? Because at the end of the day, it's how can we give you the right tools? And this is one of the tools that we want to give you. The case study is another tool that we're going to be giving every single one of you as well. So we will be sending this, and we'll let you know when the recording is up in our YouTube. And we're going to take one last question, because I know that Adi, thank you so much for the time you have given us, but I know that you have a very tight schedule. So does your story and why always have to include a negative and a dramatic aspect to it? My startup is more on the euphoric side with gamification for children.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alejandra,
No,
for the question.
Yeah, and the answer is no, not at all. It doesn't have to include a dramatic or tragedy or sad story behind it, not at all. Most of my companies that I've started, none of them had a tragic or dramatic story behind it. No, the answer is no. Again, if there is a more of an euphoric side of it, or excitement, or vision, then that's your story. You wanted to create something amazing and cool and make people happy and have a great time, and it's fine, and that's your story, and it's great.
Exactly. And just to double down on what Adi said, it doesn't have to have a negative. It's you, right? So your story is who you are. It's a reflection of who you are, of your experiences, and of those experiences that you want to share with the world. Because at the end of the day, you're sharing this with the world to connect with human beings. Well, I'm so grateful, Adi, that you were here with us again. I love how every time I hear you or talk to you, I learn something new, and I'm sure that everyone here learned a lot. We're going to be taking a 10-minute break before we start the next session. That's going to be on PR and how to really use PR and crisis management tools within your company, your personal brand, and also how to be able to connect with media, how to be able to network around your company, and how this is going to help you even with investors. So thank you again to everyone. 10 minutes and we're back. You can get some coffee, and I know it's very early for some of you. So thank you again, Adi, and you have Adi's contact. We're going to be sending the case study to everyone in the session.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye, Gabby.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. We're back. I want to introduce Cesar Hernandez. He is our next speaker. Again, I love that Adi and Cesar are personal friends too, and I've learned so much from them. Cesar is also, he's the head of Omni Public, which is a PR firm for Endeavor Miami. So he's done a lot of magic with Endeavor Miami, and also with the personal brand of our managing director. So he's going to talk a little bit about that, and he has a lot of experience. managing relationships with media outlets, with different journalists himself directly, between companies, with lobbying. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about this and the importance of having PR as part of your team, right? As part of what you do in your companies and how you nourish your personal brand and your company's brand and your products, and how do you engage with audience. So Cesar, welcome to the Endeavor Bootcamp. Thank you for making the time for us. We know that your schedule is extremely busy and that you even drove from Tampa to Miami to be here with us. So the floor is all yours. And welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Gabby. I think the world of you and obviously of Endeavor Miami. And so I'm going to go through some slides. And what I would ask is, if you have a question, maybe write it down.
I'm so sorry, guys. We're having a couple of technical problems with Wi-Fi, but we're working on them right now. Give us 1 minute.
All right. And I connected
Oh, there
via
we go.
my hotspot. So
Great. So Cesar's back online. Thank you.
cool. Here, let me make sure that this my screen gets shared. All right, is this working? Can you guys see this?
Yes, it's working. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Well, there you go, round two. So this is more or less on brand identity. I know that Gabby is a savant when it comes to these things, so I would just probably add, I'm coming more from a practical lens. So some of the newer strategies that we've been able to optimize over at Omni Public. So I'm the CEO and I am the founder of Omni Public. We're a full suite public affairs, public relations, and lobbying firm. So it's just a fancy way of saying that I'm a publicist, I'm a lobbyist, but what we do is we specialize in introducing new concepts and ideas into the marketplace, and we navigate media, government, and industry. So what does that mean? What I've been able to do is I've probably worked with some of the biggest tech companies in the world as they were looking to deploy their technologies and shift public opinion in their favor. So some of the companies that I've worked with, Tesla, Uber, Hyperloop, Bird, Ford, Scoot, Airbnb, Amazon. And when we initially began to work with these companies, like say Tesla 2016, they barely rolled out the Model S. Uber, they were illegal to operate in a lot of states around the country. Hyperloop was not eligible to be a compliant technology through the US DOT. Bird Rides became the fastest billion-dollar evaluated company in American history, and we invented the term micromobility. Ford with their data sharing, Scoot, Airbnb. I don't know if you remember, but Airbnb, we had a huge lobbying initiative with them because some counties and cities didn't want Airbnb to operate within their jurisdictions, and so on and so on. And so we've developed some expertise in various arenas when it comes to comms, when it comes to lobbying, to public affairs, shifting public opinion, and tech deployment. And some of the relationships that we've been able to really nurture are these platforms, right? And these typically we're a PR agency, this is their highlight reel, but these are like people we engage with on like a daily basis. And I've gotten really fortunate in my career where a lot of them trust us. A lot of them come to us and ask for stories. Some of them even allow us to curate specific stories because of the trust, the level of trust that we've been able to curate with them. And here's like a snapshot, right? So this is maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And the reason why I'm showing is this is a 3-week timestamp. So a lot of these companies were gonna IPO, or a lot of these companies had things in the mix. But as you can see, right, everything from Fox to Bloomberg, if you're in blockchain, CoinDesk, NASDAQ, TechCrunch, and people asking us, when can we do the interview? Hey, is your client available on this day? Hey, what you're not seeing is me sending out random pitches, seeing what happened. Is like, no, these are real relationships that we have. So I think a part of this conversation isn't me just giving you practical knowledge, but then if you're looking for an agency, I can tell you what to ask for, right? And how to curate who's legit and who's not legit. And where do I get these concepts from? So I wish I could say that I made these things up, but I didn't. I studied at Oxford University. I got my MBA there specifically with a concentration in consulting. I'm also a fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, where what I work on is novel strategies when it comes to deployment of technology, shifting public opinion, shifting policy, shifting media, and a lot of these trends. And so what are we going to talk about today? These are things to think about is what is a good foundation for messaging, right? How do I establish clean messaging internally and externally, right? Because PR isn't just external, it's how the organization speaks about itself to its board, to its employees, how do the founders portray their vision, et cetera, et cetera. What if I have bad message? How do I clean this up? How do I spin negative stories? How do I shift public opinion? What if something's already out? So maybe you're raising around, but you made some poor choices in the past. And when you Google search you, there's DUI, like images of your DUI comes up and it was 10, 15 years ago. So how do we mitigate these things that now you're a founder and they're very important in your portrayal of yourself, your company, especially if you're going to go raise money, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to give you today is I'm going to give you 10 tangible things that you can do right now without hiring an agency and that you can curate. And so before I do that, there's two looming concepts that I want you to think about as I go through this. And it is that what I deal in is called non-market. What is a non-market? It's anything that's going to impact your widget that has nothing to do with the creation of your widget, right? What is public opinion? What does the government say about your project? Are there any laws when it comes to your project that maybe is impeding it? So you see that a lot in blockchain and AI, all right? What does the current administration feel about your current widget? What does the media feel about the widget? How does your community or communities feel about your widget? Think about Uber, right? People didn't want to get into a car with a stranger. Think about Tesla, right? People really weren't open to electric vehicles. Or think about the scooter companies, like, I don't want to jump on a scooter. What is that? So you got to shift public opinion. And that's what we do, is we're a non-market strategy firm, and what we're looking at doing, we're not marketers. Like when you deal with the market, what marketers do is they engage in a market to aggrandize market share by the rules of that market. Hey, what are the levers that I need to pull within this market to aggrandize market share? And the market has detailed these rules, these laws that I need to oblige to in order to get market share. What I'm saying is I don't care about that. I look to work with individuals that are creating their market, because when you start to create your market and you create the rules, what starts to happen is you become an incumbent, and then you invite others to come into your market that can potentially compete with you, but now you're an incumbent and you wrote the rules. So examples of that is Uber, is Tesla, rideshare companies I've worked with, scooter companies I work with, advanced technology companies, where we're shaping the market, we're creating the rules, we're shifting how the media perceives us, and then people can come in and participate, but we control the arena. And that's what I want you to think about as I go through this. And it's a part of a much broader academic discipline called systempreneurship. And what that is moving multiple systems interdependent of each other to reach a specific objective, right? So we're not community organizers here to create a big committee and play kumbaya and everybody kind of coalesce and we're on the same team. I can care less. What I want is I want to shift media, I want to shift policy, I want to shift government, I want to shift community into the same direction without them knowing that we're doing this at the same time. That's systempreneurship. That's high level stuff. And who's doing this? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, right? They not only do they have teams of lobbyists and comms people, they own the media, they own social media, they own the Washington Post, right? This is how people operate. All I'm doing is I'm labeling it and I'm showing you that this is how you do it. And I'm going to give you the tangible steps to actually operate like a titan and a shaper of industry. So these are the variables that I need you to consider as we go through this: as public relations, right? Systems, government relations, community, politics. Insert your widget in the middle of this. I don't know what it is. Say it's blockchain. If it's blockchain, what do people feel about your chain? Is it legal? Is it compliant with FedNow? Do I have a community? The community is potentially on X or on Twitter, right? What is the political environment of my widget? Are there other things that I can't see that are going to impact me? And how do you counter this? So this is how you counter it. And this, I'm going to go through each one of these variables. What is a digital media kit? Why do we use that? How do you make press releases? What is messaging? What do I do with blogs? What's good digital content? Do I need to have my own personal brand? Do I create founders? How do I inorganically catalyze positive press? Like, what does that mean? And I'm going to go through each one and I'm going to give you tangible things that you can do today. First thing is, purpose of a media kit is a reference point. A purpose of a media kit is, hey, I'm on the phone with a journalist and a reporter. And the reporter says, I need a picture, right? The purpose of that is to say, hey, here's a media kit, grab whatever you want. Because then you control the likeliness of yourself, how you're gonna be, like how the company is gonna be portrayed, and you have a semblance of control. So what do you have in that? You need to do a couple of things, right? Number one, you should have an outstanding high resolution images of yourself, of your founders, who the founders are, explainer of the technology, the value proposition, what it is, what it isn't. If you put out any announcements, it should be on a media kit, press releases. Notice how big companies don't issue out a press release or wires. They put it out on their media kit, on their blog. And then they control the reference point. Journalists go back to it or they hyperlink to it. These are the things that you need to have in a proper press kit, right? Why? So that they don't misrepresent you. What happens if you don't have a media kit? Get on the phone with a reporter. Oh, this is what we do. Then they talk to your other co-founder. Oh, this is what we do. Something gets convoluted. They misrepresent the value proposition. They misrepresent numbers. And now they can throw off your valuation because of the misrepresentation. And then you call the reporter, and the reporter, you say, hey, this is inaccurate. And the reporter says, hey, that's what I heard. I'm already on to my next story. Thank you. And now you have a crisis management situation where the reporter, oftentimes these tech reporters, their previous beat was like crime or education. Like there's not like a track for journalism like tech journalism. No, they're just trying to get experience. So they're not going to know your technology. And so here's a golden nugget that I'm going to give you for this page, for this slide. Google search yourself right now, right? And I'm just going to pick people. I see a Joe Busby, right? JoeBusby.com. See if that's available. Purchase that and create a landing page of yourself. Bio, links, accolades, company, right? Because of your IP address, if I'm searching you somewhere in China or India, you're not going to come up, but your landing page probably will. And here's another thing. If you say you get, article in TechCrunch and you're getting a bunch of hits and people love it, and there's bad actors out there that are going to say, wow, they just raised 10 million, 20 million, $30 million. They're in TechCrunch. Let me search joebusby.com. Oh, it's available. I'm going to purchase it. I'm going to put Joe Busby is a scam.com. I'm going to purchase it. I'm going to hyperlink it. And now everybody's looking Joe Busby, and here comes this weird landing page of Joe Busby that says that you're a scam, that you're an illegitimate founder, and then you click on it and you say purchase it, and then they say yes, we'll take it down for $100,000, and it can be yours. True stories. I've run it all the time. Corporate espionage, right? Maybe there's somebody in your industry that wants to slow you up so they can create their widget. And all you got to do, if you go right now, purchaseyourname.com, just saved you $100,000 or even more. And it's going to be like 10 bucks. So these are the kind of things you have to do to secure your digital assets, to safeguard yourself for the future of you and for the future of your company. Another thing I get all the time is press releases. Listen, like, you're not going to win a Pulitzer Prize for a press release. Like, I can care less. Sometimes I'll have clients, they'll do like 10 revisions and like I vomit in my mouth, right? You're not going to win a Nobel Prize of Literature with your press release. And the media, they don't care. They want to see three things in your press release. Origin story. So who the hell are you? Why are you relevant? What's your value proposition? Why is the technology legitimate? And why is it unique? And lastly, why is it the future of the industry? Why should I cover it? That's it. People go wax poetic 3 pages for, like, you send that to an editor, they're gonna eye roll and they're like, this is too much. I'm done. On to the next. So what you need to do is design talking points for your company that answers these 3 things. Who am I as a founder? Why did I create this thing? Why is my company relevant? What's the value proposition, the differentiator of it? Why is it the future of the industry? Now you have talking points for your company, right? PR agents call them a messaging matrix. You take that, you give that to your C-suite. Hey, this is how we describe our origin. This is who we are. This is our value proposition. You give it to your board members. Hey, this is who we are, why we're important, why we're the future of the industry. Done. Now you have a press release. Maybe you raised money. Guess what you're going to talk about? Origin story, insert quote of founder. What's the value proposition? What you're going to do with the cash? Insert quote of the investor. Why you're the future of the industry? Insert quote of the CEO. Done. Now you know how to write press releases for tech. This is for tech. People get caught up on this thing. And at the end of the day, it's all about, is it actually going to be written about? Like, is somebody going to pick up the story? So don't get caught up. That's exactly how you design a press release. Now, you should do the exact same thing for you as a founder, right? As a founder, you need to curate your own following. Because if you don't differentiate yourself from the company, say you had this amazing company, great exit, nobody knows who you are. And you want another company, you want to raise around for another company. You have to have you have to be in a position where you can leverage the following for your next thing. Or if you're in a crisis management situation, say you're a cybersecurity firm that had some kind of white hat hacker that hacked you and you're a cyber firm, and now it's out in the media and your company puts out, we're a cybersecurity firm, we got hacked. And now the onus is on the company. If you have your own following as a founder, you can just share your company's one and say, hey, in full transparency, because that's the kind of leader that I am, I want to share what just happened at the company. And so now you look like this very transparent leader, as opposed to like this company just put out this random thing and you have zero following and you're trying to say, hey, I'm the CEO. And then they're going to say, well, who are you? Like, you messed up. Like, ha, 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 ha. If you don't have an audience, your audience can't come to bat for you. And then you also can't leverage your audience for like your next thing. So start thinking about your brand, and that's a good thing that Gabby did this earlier, where you talked about branding, especially your personal branding and why it's important. Digital content. Next thing that I get, hey, I don't have time to do. I mean, you got Medium. If you're a tech founder, you got to use LinkedIn newsletters. If you have some kind of value proposition that people can utilize but don't understand, use YouTube. They do amazing. Like right now, welcome to the digital economy. Like, attention is currency, and you need to start cashing in. If you're not doing so, like, you're gonna get left behind, or when you're going for that valuation, the company doesn't have a brand, the founder doesn't have a brand. Guess who's gonna have much more favorable covenants? The PE firm. But if you're coming in and you're saying, hey, these are these other assets that I have, now you can get into a much more detailed negotiation. What does founders content look like? You got to publish. If you have a company and you're in a specific industry, what you don't want to do is sound like a giant inflatable waving arm man, right? Everybody see those, right? You don't want to always be pushing, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. You want to opine on the state of your industry, right? Hey, I have a blog, I have a LinkedIn. This is the direction that the industry's going in. These are the things that I'm seeing, right? Op-eds. Hey, this is what's happening within my arena. These are my predictions. I have my clients in blockchain write predictions all the time. And sometimes it sticks. And then they're like, wow, this guy called it. He was amazing. Like, can we get him back on? You should know the direction of your industry, and you should be opining on it, not always just trying to sell your widget. Look like you're an emerging icon that people need to pay attention to. And all right, then this is typically, we're like, all right, great, high level ideas, practical. This slide, you need to just take a screenshot, give this to your PR team. This is how you inorganically catalyze the media, or what it's actually called is propaganda. This is how you make propaganda around you, your founders, your company. And this is what we did for Tesla. This is what we do for political campaigns, right? Like, I just did a campaign for the Attorney General of Scotland. I just did a campaign for Lord Hague, the United Kingdom. We just did one for the Chancellor of Oxford. And so the challenge is, before I go through this, is you don't ever want to believe your own propaganda. Once you believe your own propaganda, that's going to start to be the decline of you. You have to remember that you're inorganically catalyzing this for a specific aim and objective. And this is how you do it. Every month, you should hit these 4 things. One is local, right? Local, if you're in Miami, Refresh, Miami Inno, South Florida Business Journal, Miami Herald, but they don't really cover tech or startups, but Florida Trend, right? Ocean Drive, things like that. You should have a relationship with them. How do you develop a relationship? You don't write a press release and say, hey, Ashley Portero of Miami Inno, you don't know me, I don't know you, here's a press release, write about me. You don't do that. What you do is you look at the journalists in your city, and then you reach out to them and you say, hey, I don't have a story right now. I would like to meet you. this is what I'm developing. This is what I'm working on. What are you interested in? Can we grab coffee? You need to start power mapping, right? And creating these relationships with these reporters. Create a relationship. Pitch relationships, not stories. The byproduct of you pitching a relationship is a story. You meet with her, grab coffee, go to events, invite her to events. Next thing you know, hey, I got a press release. I just raised some money. Would you be interested in an exclusive? Absolutely, Joe. You know, we've been talking for like a couple months now, right? And I would be thrilled. And you have a media kit ready, you got pictures ready, you wrote the press release properly because you listened to this talk, and you get a story in Miami, or you get a story in Refresh Miami. And maybe you're raising money, and maybe you put that in there. Hey, we're still opening up. I've had clients be in Refresh Miami, raise 5 million, 8 million, 9 million. I've had 4 clients that we've gotten Q&As in Refresh Miami, and they've raised money because I know that Refresh Miami goes to investors. It has an investor newsletter that they push it out to. That's what you do. Every month, you should have a local target. National, you take that same exact thing and you rinse and repeat with national reporters. They're typically going to be in New York City, and you do the exact same thing. Hey, I'm in New York City for this week, Tech Week at New York City. There's tons of reporters that ascend there. Would love to grab coffee with you. What happens over time, these relations begin to compound with local reporters, national reporters, local reporters, national reporters. And you want to target the specific reporters that have an immense amount of influence in your industry. That's what we want. So it's not just, hey, let me get in TechCrunch. Like if you are in fintech, you want Marianne Acevedo because she's the senior reporter, has the biggest following in fintech. You want to target specific people, not just get onto a platform because then it'll carry you through, right? If you're going to IPO on NASDAQ, you want to be on Trade Talks with Jill Melandrino because that goes out to a newsletter to investors that are looking at pre-IPO companies to potentially get behind. But you see what I'm saying? But you have to understand who you're talking to, not just random. People come to me and they're like, I'm looking for PR agency. And I'm like 50-50 when they use that language because they don't really understand. They're like, can you do Forbes? I'm like, I can, but for what reason? Right? Like, why? And so every month, target a national reporter with a specific reach and audience. Also, thought leadership. Look at, and it's a buzzy word, but look at submitting op-eds, WashPo, right? Look at the information. TechCrunch has a thing called Extra Crunch. Wall Street Journal has essays. The New York Times has essays. If you're policy oriented, look at The Hill. So that every month, people are seeing you drop somewhere. Next one is industry thought leadership. This is where you get customers from. All the other ones, you're just going to get awareness and potential investors. Industry thought leadership is things in your industry. So like if you're in banking, American Banker. It's not the sexiest thing, but they read that. If you have a GovTech play, Smart Cities Dive, that newsletter goes to every procurement office in the country. Now, this takes longer because they're not pumping out stories on a daily basis, 4 to 6 weeks. So how does this work? Say I target an industry, right? Say I have a GovTech play and I'm in Smart Cities Dive and I'm talking about how my technology will be beneficial to your city. They click on it. They Google you, they see you writing in the Washington Post about how the technology is transformative for cities and governments. Then they click, they see that you've been vetted by Forbes, Bloomberg, NASDAQ, Then they're like, well, what city are they at? And then they see that, oh, maybe you're in Miami. And look, even the editor of Miami wrote a story about them. They're always being written about Ashley Portero. You start to become, you seem ubiquitous, but you're not, right? Because if I'm a procurement director, I'm looking at what's happening locally. I'm looking at what's getting national attention. Who are the leaders in my industry that I can trust? And I'm looking at very specific curated industry publications. Quick case study, Bird Rides raised $1 billion in 7 months. They became my client. They couldn't get into the Southeast United States. So we deployed some of these concepts in our market strategy and systempreneurship. We got them activated across cities across the Southeast United States and wrote the law for micromobility. They've since, they don't exist anymore. They're no longer my client, but this is an idea where we took an idea like micromobility, created a brand new law in cities, created a law on a state level, created public opinion to make it cool to ride scooters for first and last mile initiatives, created this term called micromobility, created this thing called the share economy. We made this stuff up. I'm not like, we're making stuff up because I'm creating an industry. And now everybody uses these terms, right? This is something that we did with Endeavor Miami, right? They've had over 1 billion in reach, right? I mean, we started working with them around 2 years ago. There was a lot of confusion in the market with word associations. What is Endeavor, right? Because Claudia's vision is they're ecosystem builders. We're not just an accelerator, not just an incubator. We're not just scale up. We're building an ecosystem. So when you Google her, all the associations is entrepreneurs, ecosystem building, right? Investing, Miami. We were able to curate name and title pieces that say how Claudia Duran and Endeavor Miami are shaping Miami's tech ecosystem. That's the difference of when like you work with me or you work with some pie in the sky PR shop, is we are inorganically catalyzing the media and getting them to pay attention to the good work that you're doing, right? Now, Gabby makes it easy because like she did this amazing work with the White House and we got them featured in Business Insider and Forbes and things of that nature. There's a lot of credibility there, but you could be doing a lot of credible things, but if nobody knows who you are, you're not going to do it, right? I love to use this analogy. Biggest difference between Stonehenge and the Mayan temples is I know what the Mayan temples were built for because they have hieroglyphs. This is the temple of the jaguar. This is the temple of the sun. This is exactly what we did. And then when I go to England and Stonehenge and I see a bunch of stones and they're like, we don't know. Maybe they did this, maybe they did that. Maybe it was a thing, maybe it wasn't. So at the end of the day, when people look back and they look at the work that you've done, are they going to know exactly what you did or are they going to make their own assumptions? And so that's just concepts to think about. I gave you some tangible outcomes. These are the concepts that we deploy with our clients that help shape markets and that have worked. This is my contact information. If you're looking for it, what I am offering it is just 15 minutes where I would take you on as if you're my client for 15 minutes. I would do opposition research on you. I would tell you what you need to get done. And within 15 minutes, you can take my advice, give it to your team or not. But that's what I'm offering for Endeavor Miami, especially being in this community that they've curated so thoughtfully. So with that, I'll turn it over for any questions. Gabby, did I miss anything?
Hi, no. So I'm just gonna go and run through a couple of the takeaways that we have from what Cesar just presented to us, and it's very important. Can everyone see my screen? Yes? Yeah. Okay, great. So back to what is PR then? It's about shaping the image of a person, your personal brand, company, or brand, and building strong relationships within the public and the media. What does it mean? Managing reputation, telling the stories, building relationships, media coverage, influencing perception, handling crisis, and creating trust. Remember how we spoke about before in our previous session. Authenticity builds trust within people. And what Cesar was saying as well right now is connecting. PR is not only about media outlets. It's not about, hey, I want to be in Forbes, so let's get out there and get me Forbes. It's not about a press release that we're going to take hours writing a press release, and at the end of the day, it's just going to be there in the inbox of a journalist, right? It's more of step one, you understand who you are, why do you want to do what you want to do, what is your purpose, what is your personal brand, and what's going to be your messaging, right? What are going to be your talking points, your sound bites, and then we start with your PR. And I know that Cesar has been talking about talk to your PR teams. For most of you, you are your PR team, right? Because you don't have a team. So we're giving you the basic tools on how to be yourself, your PR team for a while you understand and you start building who you are. And then you're able to, okay, knock on the door of Omni Public or someone else, right? That's going to help you get to that, to scale to that next step in what PR is. So again, managing reputation. We had a question during our last session. What happens in something from our personal life or from a founder or some C-level team member jumps up and it's gonna damage the reputation of the brand of the company. Again, how do we keep it positive? How do we keep it positive in the public image? And like Cesar said, PR is not only about media. It's when you go to a supermarket and you're talking to someone and they tell you and you listen that they're talking about, like in Leslie's case, they're talking about photography. Okay, so Leslie comes along and that's PR. You start talking to people, you start selling who you are, you start selling what you do, what you know, your knowledge. You start building a relationship. You're authentic, you build that trust, you nourish the relationship. Same with journalists, as Cesar said. It's not about, hey, I'm gonna send an email to Ashley from Enid and boom, we're gonna have an article on it. No, you get to know her first. Again, we're all human beings. We're building relationships, right? We create trust with the journalist. And there's something that when you are learning about PR and how to manage relationships with journalists, they always tell you, and Cesar always reminds me this, they're not your friends, they're journalists. And there's never a conversation that's offline. So that's something important for everyone to take today back with you and always remember. With a journalist, there's never offline. There's always online because you're giving them information. You're feeding information about yourself, about who you are. So that's why it's so important, right? In the past session, we spoke about this. How do we, when we're creating our personal brand, we get to know, okay, what do we want the world to know about us? And that, again, it's with journalists. It's when you're in a dinner. It's when you're presenting, when you're pitching to an investor. It's when you're telling your story. How are you sharing your message? You have to be very clear about what you want to share, right? So again, we're going to be sharing all this information and we're going to have a case study for all of you because I think it's helpful that we went through the building of a brand, right? A personal brand and the importance of branding and storytelling. And now we're going to, okay, how do we use those tools in a right way? The PR tools, right? Handling crisis, media coverage, creating trust. So that's very important. And again, PR helps you communicate clearly who you are, what you stand for, and why people should trust you and engage with you. And something, a case study for me, for example, that Cesar was telling you, all of you, was the America's Partnership Investor Network. That some of you have heard about it because you're also part of that network and you went through the landing page to be here. So what we did is we leveraged the most known brand in the world, the White House, right? How do we leverage that? That's where you use PR. How do we get that brand to help our brand and the message that we want to create an impact? And that's what really helped us. And it helped us on how we were relating with the journalists and to understanding what media outlets we wanted to be, right? Because we needed to understand, who do we want our audience to be? What is our target, right? So as Cesar said, we drafted an angle, we drafted the talking points, and it was not about the press release. It's about what message do we want to get through. So we even created talking points and sound bites for every person that was going to be in that meeting, and if all the events and all the meetings that we were going to have around the America's Partnership Initiative. So everyone was repeating the same message. Repetition, consistency, as we learned in our previous session, is key. So then, of course, journalists take that, and that's the message. And at the end of the day, we see the message that we drafted that is going to help us connect with our audience and our target. That's one of many. Thought leadership, as Cesar said. Remember, we spoke also. Your brand is the most important thing, because you can have companies and you're going to exit your company, but you're also always going to be, in my case, I'm always going to be Gabby, right? It doesn't matter what company I work for. It doesn't matter what company I create. I'm my brand. I'm my most important brand. So I invest in this, and I invest in how I talk to people and how I nurture the relationships with people and what message I get through, right? So again, this session is a very basic session, like the brand identity plus PR, but we wanted to start giving you the tools for you also to create your own message, find your purpose, find your why, and find your brand, what you want to be to the world outside of the world, right? And we're gonna start right now with some Q&A for Cesar and myself. So raise your hands if you have any questions, or let us know through the chat.
I think there was somebody who asked if you're gonna raise money, what's a minimum budget? I would say a minimum budget. So you gotta be careful with agencies, because it can start to get expensive, right? I think on the low end, they're gonna charge it's around 6,000, and on the high end, 25. And so what I recommend is you work with an agency that understands startups. So like, say, for example, with us, nonprofits, when we start to work with them, because we're also a lobbying arm, it's 2K. But what we do with that is we're gonna get money. So through an appropriation or something like that, until we get cash coming in, and then we slowly start to get ourselves closer to market rate. And so you don't need a lot, because initially, if you're brand spanking new, you don't have any of this messaging, you don't have any of this communications framework. So you're doing a lot of like the non-sexy things, which is tightening up your messaging, your landing pages, your media kit, your press kit, targeted introductions to the media, introductions with government, and then you begin to kind of aggrandize the scope. And that's what I see always works. Whenever I see somebody extend themselves, they want too much too soon, and they don't realize that it's overkill, right? You're not ready for that level yet.
And maybe to add to Cesar, because we're all from different countries here too, right? So it depends also on where you are, on what the cost and the budget would be. But before you start shopping for a PR firm or a PR team, you need to have the basics of what your brand is and how you, and your messaging, right? Because as Cesar said, like, it's, again, building trust with your firm, with your PR firm, is also important, and they need to understand you, what your mission, and it has to be aligned. And I've done this for over 15 years, and it's so easy to fall into any PR firm or any marketing agency or anything, but you understand and you see when there's a real alignment, you're going to see the results, right? Because it comes from who you are as well, and they have to believe in you as a personal brand and your company in order to really communicate through the platforms and to journalists what your essence is, what you are, what you stand for. So again, like, the best advice I could give is what Cesar said right now, like, Let's build up first our brand. Let's understand what we stand for. Let's understand also what platforms do we need to be in, because maybe you don't need a PR firm right now to be in the news. Maybe first of all, you need to start going to conferences where you know that your company and your product will belong, right? And you start growing up those relationships and that network. That is PR as well. Or you can start, if you have an inspiring story, part of PR is how do you have speaking opportunities? And that's something that a firm does too, right? Like if you want to be in conferences and start inspiring people with your story and connecting with them, and that be your introduction or their introduction to your product and your brand, those are things that, again, it's part of PR. We had Adriana also with a question, and then Leslie.
Hi, Gabby. No, I already made the question to Cesar. Thank you very much for the answer. And yes, I was thinking for the American market. And for example, in our case, we are thinking about the Hispanic market. But thanks for the answer.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes, thank you so much. That was so interesting and insightful. I was just wondering, so before hiring a peer company, what is the step before? Because what I'm understanding is that I have to be ready. Like I have to have my media kit ready, like with my photos and my description. So I think I'm guessing I have to do that myself, or is there a company that or an industry that takes care of that for me, at least in guiding me before hiring a peer company, or a peer company would be able to take care of that part too?
Yeah, I would say that number one, like a legitimate firm would easily be able to take care of that, right? So a lot of these early things an agency can teach you, like say we have accounts that they're more like a coaching level where I'm teaching the team, because we want to get to a point where we work ourselves out of a position where we're teaching the team, we're teaching the founder what to look for, and then it's on autopilot, right? Because a lot of these things what you don't want is to be dependent on a firm. What you want is to understand it, get learnings, and then when you want to take things to another level, then the firm can help manage, right? And so the step one is your own digital media assets, and whether you engage with us or anybody else, we can help create those. Step two is, what is the messaging? Like, what is the identity? What is the branding? What is the aim? Because if I'm doing a campaign, to what aim? I don't know. You, as the founder, as a leader, as the visionary, need to detail that aim and say, my digital assets are ready. My messaging is in alignment with who I am. And now my vision is thus, I'm raising money, or I need to do this, I need to do this. Where do I take this? Then that's a campaign. So it's like, first, the ship needs to be able to float, then it can leave the harbor. So make a tank, right? Make a tremendous battleship. So then when it's ready to go, it's ready to go. And so that's where I would start. Landing page, digital assets, build audience around you. Like what industry are you in?
Photography and art.
So if you're in photography and art, where does your community naturally do community?
Say that again, I'm sorry. Where does my community what?
Where do they activate the most?
Oh, well, basically galleries, interior designers, and that's in the art side, which is the printing lab. And in the side of the photography, it's any corporate events, networking events. That's where most of my potential clients are. Anybody basically, ironically, in need of handling their public image in the correct way.
Perfect. Now that's IRL, right? So in real life, this is where we do community. social media, where do they do community?
Instagram and LinkedIn.
So there you go. Now I know IG, that means stories, reels, posts.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's on LinkedIn, it's going to be short form content, newsletter.
Okay.
So now I'm starting to develop a strategy. Right now I'm starting to see if I'm not going to spend my time on Twitter.
Mm.
I'm probably not going to spend my time reaching out to traditional media because you got maybe one, maybe the Herald. So, but what are you going to do? Podcasts, creator podcasts, artist podcasts. You do one podcast that's 60 minutes long, you can chop up maybe 30 reels. You chop up 30 reels, you released one a day on IG, you have a month's worth of content. You see how
I
this
like that.
starts to grow, right?
Yeah.
You take the content, you post 2 a week on LinkedIn because LinkedIn's opposite of IG. It doesn't want every day, it wants 2 a week. You create a newsletter, weekend review. This is what I did. I went to this dope event. I met with this really cool artist. Here's an insight from me. Here's a reel. Here's a how to do. Check out my newsletter, opt in. Now you're leveraging community and building your audience and your community, and you're talking to them where they want to be talked to.
Awesome. That's a mini strategy already. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
And I would say, Leslie, exactly this, like tap into spaces and opportunities like this one, because we're starting, right? So
Yeah.
some of us don't have the funding to hire someone to do these media press kits and to create the landing page and to this and that. But there's so many tools out there that you can take advantage of and tap into those resources to start, right? It's all about starting with the basics and creating this step by step, as Cesar has been saying, and how Adi also mentioned it. And again, tap into us. That's also why we're here and why we want to follow up with this. Because there's a lot of tools also out there, like to create simple landing pages, to create part of the posts that you need for your IG, in this case, in LinkedIn. And now that Cesar has told you, like, don't waste time in the platforms that are not really where your audience live. Right? How do we stay in where your audience lives? Eladio.
Hello? Yeah. Thank you, Cesar, for it's a great presentation. I'm the founder of Co-Creator AI. It's an AI mentor for entrepreneurs. I've been working for 11 months. I was incubated in London last year, supported by Google, also NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Hume AI. So we are going to combine emotional intelligence with mentoring through AI and also hard stuff. I'm working on LinkedIn now, my own LinkedIn, almost 4,000 followers. But any advice regarding more than the less newsletter, any other blog that we can write some articles to get attention onto the mentoring with AI, some ideas to writing some articles. Any ideas on where I can go to this strategy?
Yeah, I would say that last slide that I had, that's sector agnostic. Like plug in any industry, that's how you catalyze it. So, what city are you in?
Miami.
So have you reached out to the Miami Business Journal?
No.
That's local, Southwest Business Journal, right?
Okay.
Axios, they do a lot with culture. Now nationally, who nationally is one of the most influential reporters when it comes to AI?
I don't know, maybe Fortune. I read something important. Yeah.
Reporter.
No, I don't know.
You need to find that
We
name.
have to do the research. Okay.
Right?
Perfect.
What's the biggest publication covering AI right now? The most influential?
Yeah, there's a lot of newsletter, but I don't have one in mind right now. So the most important thing is with the research.
You gotta do the work. You gotta do the work. So you gotta say local, national, industry, and what's the platform that I can showcase my ideas? Because I can say, hey, write Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Cool. But what if there's like a very small AI newsletter that I don't know about, and that all the major VCs are funding and that they actually read. I don't know. You got to take the framework, because if you come to an agency and I say, oh, I'm going to put you on Forbes, and you're like, oh, great, I'm on Forbes. Look at all the things that I did.
Nobody cares in my industry.
But it's not moving the needle in your industry, but I got paid. Like, I checked the box, like, hey, I did what I said I was going to do. Congratulations, right?
And
You
nothing
gotta know,
happened.
like, I'll give it, so like what Gabby was talking about with the Americas Partnership, right? Local, South Florida Business Journal covered it, Refresh covered it. Great. Nationally, Forbes, but not just any Forbes reporter, the finance reporter at Forbes. So the article went viral, right? Business Insider, right? Associated Press, right? Reuters, all legitimate press, right? Now I went into the industry. So who wrote about it in the industry? Florida Politics, right? Because I know that the governor reads Florida Politics every morning, right? I wanted thought leadership. So she was in studio at NASDAQ News talking about investing into Latin America. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta do the work.
Yeah,
You
homework.
gotta know who you're trying to engage with. And then that's the strategy. And you rinse and repeat. You know, you rinse and repeat.
Perfect. Thank you, Cesar. Thank you.
So yeah, as Cesar mentioned, like, let's do our research, right? Who would be those journalists that make sense, the media outlets that make sense with us? And as he was explaining, for the Americas Partnership, we did exactly that. Like, who do we want? Because that's the audience that we want to get. We have another question. It says, hi, Cesar, if you have an app for a niche group, kidney patients, how do you grow your brand to attract the bigger national organizations and players to take interest in the topic?
All right, let's see. Kidney patients. What does the app do for kidney patients?
I'm sorry, hi. The app is just a food scanner that helps them stay on their kidney diet.
Okay. So you need to be hyper industry. So that's Becker's Health, right? Fierce Healthcare, Stat. These are industry journals that people are looking for, but not just people, big healthcare companies that are looking to scarf up apps and their technology. Becker's Health, Fierce Healthcare, Stat, Medical Daily, right? These are industry related publications and journals that you should be reaching out to, talking about the value proposition of your app, because the major healthcare companies all subscribe to these and they run ads because they want to see what the industry is doing, and it behooves them to do so that they can have a competitive advantage, right? So we work with an AI company, DeLorean AI, that the predictive AI for onset diseases, like kidney disease, right? And all we run for them is Becker's, Fierce, Stat, Medical Daily, only med journals, only med journals. And then they have United Healthcare Global reaching out to them to onboard their technology, right? I only put him in academic podcasts. So he spoke at Wharton, he spoke at Oxford, he spoke at Harvard, because they're only talking to the academicians that are taking that information, putting it on their newsletters, that guess what? The big enterprises are reading because they want to know what's relevant. So he signed the contract with United Healthcare Global. I'm not doing the Forbes. I'm not doing the Bloombergs. I'm not doing all that. Why? Because that's just fanfare. So look at who's relevant in your industry and hyper focus on them, because they're going to push your app out to as a service provider to them right
Okay.
now, unless you don't want it. But here's the thing. Are you trying to exit? Like, do you want enterprise level clients or are you straight to consumer?
Right now we're straight to consumers, but we want to partner with enterprises.
Right. And so that's why I would say take the strategy that I just detailed, right? And follow it.
Okay.
You can get enterprise, you can get customers and consumers, but you got to look at these items, right?
Okay.
And if
So I do have a question. Should I present at conferences? Should I focus on that? Or should I focus on reaching out
both,
through email, social media?
both,
Okay.
both. Maximize your ability to get more traction, more customers, and you should segment your customers enterprise level or be straight to consumer. So you should have an enterprise level pipeline and how do I reach out to them? And then you should have a straight to consumer pipeline and then a strategy to communicate to them. So if enterprise level is like a Becker's Health or a Medical Daily or maybe even on United Healthcare's blog, then to your consumer, it should be influencers that are dealing with anything in that arena, right? So you would have to search these influencers and DM them, pitch them, and say, hey, this is what I do, this is how helpful, it'll be great. And then you should actually create your own content and reels about what it does. And in order to get traction on Instagram, you're gonna have to post a reel a day for about a quarter, for 3 months.
Oh,
And Instagram
okay.
starts taking you seriously. And then they're gonna start building your audience. So it's doable, but you got to stay consistent. You can't just expect do 1, 2, 3 reels and hopefully it'll pop, right? Like I've done stuff with clients that I've gotten 10,000 views and then I've gotten 11 million views. And
Okay.
you see what I'm saying? So you got to deploy multiple strategies, especially like you're by yourself. Like this is your thing. Do you have a team?
I have interns.
Yeah, get your interns to do it. There you go.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Cesar.
You got it, man.
Okay, and we have one last question in the chat, Cesar. And before we go into that question, just a reminder, because we know that some of you, could you all please share your emails with us through your chat for us to send you the case studies, presentations, and all the information that we will be sharing with you all, please. So Cesar, it says, it's from Joe. There's a question from Joe.
It says, you mentioned getting necessary legislation, state and city that Bird needed. We will have issues to work out with the DEP. What's the DEP? The Department of Economic, what is DEP? And local health department. What was involved in this kind? So, who asked this? First, what is DEP? Oh, Joe's you're muted, Joe, sorry. Is it environmental policy? There you go.
Here we go. It's Department of Environmental Protection here in Florida.
Okay, all right.
DEP.
So the challenge is that it's a lobbying play, right? And so the rules in the state of Florida for lobbyists is number one, when you engage with a lobbyist, the lobbyist has to register to be able to represent you to any state agency, right? So whereas in PR, you don't need to register as a publicist, like we can begin work. When it comes to lobbying, like say, I'm just gonna use us an example, like Joe, you would come to me, this is the challenge that I have. I need to get in front of the DEP and what you need to get in front of, it needs to change state regulation or does it need to change state regulation, county and city?
It's state regulation, and that one probably is going to be the least problem. The problem that we're seeing, even talking to DEP, is whether local health departments will go along with it because they're ignorant. They don't know. Our technology is so new; it's never been out there before, and so you know, what we've done is we've developed a way to take care of any biodegradable waste, no matter how nasty it is, no matter how much disease is in it, in other words, poop or anything else like it, and turn it into 100% biosecure feed and fertilizer. Well, DEP has a process that we can get their approval. That one's not going to be a problem. It's just doing it. The problem is local health departments may not go along with it, and there's not really it's more perception than it is a legal problem.
Yeah, I mean, I have a strategy for you. So first, you got to think of government is not a layered cake, right? It's a marble cake. It's intertwined, right? People think, oh, state, county, city, special districts. No, they're all, it's a marble cake. And then the challenge the marble cake is in the state of Florida, right? The Republican Party runs the show, right? So you have to have a strategy in the state of Florida with DEP that you're not going to get the laws changed immediately, but you need to begin the process. And I don't know I would have to look at it as to what the outcome could be, right? So that could take 6 months to a year. You leave that alone. Depending on the city and the county that you're trying to engage with, they each have a different strategy, right? Because if it's the city, is it a strong mayor form of government, meaning to say that the mayor actually has authority and power? Or is it a weak mayor, means that the mayor's just like a glorified city council person and the city manager is actually in charge? And what is their politics? I don't know. You got to tell me. Countywide, is it a county mayor, executive, or is it a county commission, right? Or is it a public administrator that runs the show? You got to tell me the county, right? Now, depending on where you want to go, you have to deploy a statewide strategy, right? You have to deploy a city strategy, a county strategy, and what we call special districts, which are things that may be overlooking what you're trying to impact. And it's like this agency, right? So like it could be a water commission. I don't know.
Water management districts in Florida.
Yeah, like sometimes livable roadways commissions have environmental policy initiatives. I don't know. It's a marble cake, right? We would have to engage for me to look at it and say, this is how you go about it. And this is what you do. You create a charter, you find special provisions within city or county charters that would allow you to operate, right, for a given amount of time while the state regulation catches up and creates a blanket state regulation so that you're able to operate during the special provision. Once you're operating during the special provision, state legislation kicks in, which will then create a blanket rule for you to actually proceed, right? And that's how you do it. That's what says a marble cake. Now, the other challenge, though, is this. Sometimes if you have a technology, you can actually do demonstration with an agency where you can call them pilot initiatives. You can pilot this and do something called a public-private partnership, a P3, and then engage with them, get a contract through a special provision while the state is waiting to catch up. And then if you do the project and say a city, a county, a special district loves it, in the state of Florida, you have something called a task order. meaning to say if I'm in a city and I'm engaging with you, or I'm an agency, I engage with you, and you're doing good work, and here's a neighboring agency that says, hey, we want that tech also, can you just extend their contract to us through a task order? It's like a piggyback, and you could do that all over the state, and that's how you get your stuff in.
The state does have, Florida does have a pilot program that we qualify for. Would that be the best way to go? Because that would then.
I would have to see. Like, we would have to have a conversation. I would have to, you have to tell me what you're trying to do, right? Because I'm giving you frameworks as to how, and for everybody listening, I just said, like, this is a B to G framework. This works for any sector, right? This is just the framework. We would have to have a conversation. You would have to tell me what the aim is, and for me to actually say, like, you know, this is how you would do it. I dropped my email in the chat. If you want to reach out.
I got that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Well, so we're about to wrap up. We're going to give you a couple of hours back to your days, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Cesar. I know your schedule's crazy, and we're grateful that you gave us this time. We will send you also to everyone, as we mentioned in our previous session with Adi, a case study and some follow-up materials and information. And you all have our email, our information here from Endeavor as well, if you want to reach out. And thank you again. This is day 1 of our boot camp. We have a lot of sessions coming up. They're really good sessions. We have great speakers like Adi and Cesar joining our session. So I invite everyone to, if you can't make it, like, tell your teams, tell other people, like, these are free tools that we have for you, right? To help you build the foundations of for your startups, for your companies, for your personal brands, right? It's how do we train and give you knowledge. So thank you again to everyone. Thank you, Cesar, for everything. And have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. See you.